Hi, my name is Francia, and I'm doing my presentation on the indigenous people of South Africa, the Khoisan. During this presentation, I'll be talking about their lives prior to colonization, their lives during colonization, and their lives after colonization. I'll also be drawing similarities with the indigenous people of Canada where applicable. Long before the settlers arrived on the southern shores, there were various groups of people who spread out sparsely across the land. These people today, called the Khoisan, were skilled hunter-gatherers and nomadic farmers who lived off of the land. Archaeologists estimate that the pastoral Khoi and hunter-gatherer San were living in southern Africa for approximately 2,000 years. The Khoisan were the first people in southern Africa. The name Khoisan is a blend of Khoi and San, two groups who share similar cultures and languages. The Khoi, they called themselves Khoi to distinguish themselves from those who do not own livestock. The Khois were skilled in practice of nomadic pastoral agriculture. They maintained large herds of cattle throughout the country, and evidence suggests that they migrated to South Africa from Botswana. Some moved down from the Kalahari to the Cape, while others ventured southwest towards South Africa's high-lying lands. The Khoi kept herds of animals such as goats, cattle, and sheep, and had to move around to find enough grazing land for the animals. They moved according to the seasons and only stayed in place for a few weeks. This meant that they had to be able to carry all their belongings themselves or load them onto the backs of their animals. For the Khoi, the possessions of cattle, has given rise to status distinctions of wealth and prestige. Their houses had to be very tight and easy to erect and take apart. For this reason, they were made of thin poles covered with reed mats. Even pots and buckets were made of wood with small handles to make them easier to tie to animals' back. They also wore clothes made out of leather like the San. The women milked the animals and gathered wild plants from the veldt, and the men killed game for everyday food. They only killed their own animals for specific occasions like funerals and weddings. Khoi society consisted of both rich and poor, as animals, which were a sign of wealth, could belong to individuals. This is because animal provided food, clothes, and transport. This was completely different from the San, who were considered equal and shared everything. Healthier Khoi people would share their milk with poorest members of their groups, but would still be considered more important. They would also rub animal fat over their bodies to share their wealth. The Khoi language characterized by impulsive consonant of clicks belonged to a total different language family from those of the Bantu speakers. Their religion is a combination of animist and the personification and the nature's forces that produce rain. The Khoi believed in the extensive of the soul after death and in the ruler of all things who came out of the east. Their graves, therefore, are oriented towards the east. Their traditional music, folks tales, proverbs, and poetry have been handed down from generation and form the base for much of their culture. They are known for crafts, which includes leatherwork, skin cuirasses, and mats. The San. The term San is commonly used to refer to a diverse group of hunters, gatherers living in southern Africa who share historical and linguistic connection. San people speak numerous dialects of a group of language known for the characteristic of their clicks. that can be heard in their pronunciation, presented in written symbols by exclamation marks or slash. San communities comprise up to 25 men, women, and children. At certain times of the year, groups join for exchange of news and gifts for marriage arrangement and for social occasions. They made their homes in caves, under rocky overanches, and in temporary shelters. The San had territories governing regions as far afield as Botswana, Namibia, Zambia, Zimbabwe, South Africa, and Lesotho. They are skilled hunter-gatherers whom most consider to be the first people living in the land known today as Botswana and South Africa. Some people were semi-nomadic, seasonally moving to new region when water or animals became sparse. The San have no formal authority figures or chief, just like the indigenous people of Canada, but govern themselves by group consensus. Disputes are resolved through lengthy discussions where all involved have a chance to make their thoughts heard until some agreement is reached. Certain individuals may assume leadership in specific spheres in which they excel, once again, just like the indigenous people of Canada, such as hunting or healing rituals, but they cannot achieve position of general influence or power. Leadership among the San is kept for those who have lived within that group for a long time, so those that have acquired knowledge over the group, who have achieved a respectable age and good character. San are largely equalitarian, sharing such things as meat and tobacco. The San will eat anything available, both animal and vegetables. The selection of food ranges from antelope, zebra, porcupine, wild bear, lion, giraffes, fish, insects, tortoises, flying ants, and snakes, venomous or non-venomous. The San are not wasteful, and every part of the animal is used. The hides are tanned for blankets, and the bones are scraped for the marrow. Water is hard to come by, as the San are constantly on the move, usually during the dry season. These migrates collect their moisture by scraping and squeezing roots. If they are out hunting and traveling, they would dig holes in sand to find water, and they also carry water in ostrich eggshells. The San are intelligent trackers and know the habits of their prey. Hunting is a team effort, and the man whose arrow killed the animal has the right to distribute the meat to the tribe members. Gender roles are not jealously gathered in the San society. Women sometimes assist in the hunt, and the men sometimes help gather plant foods. The San belief system generally observes the supremacy of one powerful god, while all the same time recognizing the presence of leisure gods along with their wives and children. Homage is paid to the spirit of the deceased. On prime importance in San groups, it is a ritual dance that served to heal the group. The Great Medicine or Healing Dance and the Rain Dance were rituals in which everyone participated. During these dances, the women actually sat around a central fire as they sang and clapped their hands. The men then first danced around the woman in clockwise direction and vice versa. Many consider the Khoisan to have some of the most incredible knowledge and insight into the wild animals and the environment that they inhabit. The ability to abstract nutrients from seemingly inconspicuous plants and survive in general arid and hospitable environment is incredible. Many have comprehensive knowledge about the medicinal values of plants, and they use natural items to cure hundreds of ailments without modern medicine, just like the indigenous people of Canada do. The Khoisan were the first native people to come into contrast with the Dutch settlers in the mid-17th century. As the Dutch took over the land for farms, the Khoisan were disposed, exterminated, and enslaved, and therefore their numbers dwindled. The Khoisan were called the Haudenots by European settlers because the sound of their language was so different from any European language, and they could not pronounce many of the words and sounds. The ongoing encounters were often violent, although the British made some attempts to develop more amicable relationships. Local population dropped when the Khoisan were exposed to smallpox by Europeans, just as the population of the indigenous people of Canada decreased. Over the following century, the Khois were steadily driven off their land, which effectively ended traditional Khoisan life. As the Dutch took over land for farmers, the Khoisan were disposed, exterminated, or enslaved. The San, the term Bushman, came from the Dutch term Boisjesman, which means bandit or outlaw. This term was given to the San during the long battle against the colonists. The San interpreted this as a proud and respectful reference to their brave fight for freedom from dominant and colonization. So just as the indigenous people of Canada fought for their land, so did the San people. It was with the arrival of the Europeans in the mid-1600s that things started to go horribly wrong for the Khoisan. In spite of the widely accepted beliefs that were among the country's first people, the Khoisan are still among the most neglected and forgotten, just as the indigenous people of Canada. Though many thought the advance of democracy in Southern Africa would result in better recognition of the Khoisan, many leaders from the groups claim this has not been the case. The Khoisan people who were able to retain their land are now struggling to maintain it, and there are a few resources and little government emphasis being put on securing and improving life conditions in these remote regions of South Africa. Khoi and San claim they are constantly ignored by the South African government. Political leaders seldom meet with members of the group, and the various languages spoken by Khoisan people are not recognized as part of the 11 official languages in the country. Widely reported as most of the most complex language in the world, they are now under threat of being lost entirely, owing to the ongoing decline of these traditional communities. So just as the Cree language has been declining, so has theirs as well. Today, the Khoisan struggle to maintain their traditional ways of existence, and we are currently witnessing the end of their hunter-gathering lifestyle. Many have started to transition into more modern lifestyles and have shifted to agriculture and herding. This means that many of the original skills and insight, particularly pertain to hunting and gathering, have been lost. Laws in the countries where they once lived now prevent the Khoisan from hunting as they once did to survive. The vibrant languages in which clicks are used like consonants is disappearing fast. Traditional music and singing are no longer as prevalent, and the art of making weapons, traditional jewelries, and clothing are starting to be diluted by modern Western culture, just as it is being done in Canada. So the colonizers have taken over, and they had installed their belief system and their way of lives upon the Khoisan, just like the English have done in Canada regarding the indigenous people of Canada. Thank you.